in every single position, the baby is lying down only. When the mother lies down, there is a problem for people. Maybe I think because they don't want the mother to get any sort of comfort and they want her to keep suffering. And some even go to another level and say that your oxytocin peaks when you lie down. And it'll end up spraying the milk on the baby's mouth. A postpartum mother doesn't have to lie down to sleep. I was taking bath when I was just 45 days or 50 days postpartum. I was so tired that even, I was sleeping when I was taking bath. I realized only when I was about to fall down. There is no single evidence that says breastfeeding in sidelying position is the reason behind so many troubles for children. People think that it becomes water, becomes less in nutrition, they will not go to school because they are breastfeeding, and there are so many stuffs like that. But all these are not true. As per the WHO, it is recommended to breastfeed for at least 2 years and to continue as long as mother and the child wants. People always talk about calcium and not about any other nutrients, as if we are all very much into balanced nutrition. We always talk about calcium. We get calcium only from cow's milk is what people believe. There is a cow which has given birth to a calf. If that person from the house is coming to you and asking you for the milk, will you not laugh at them? Cow's milk is for cow's children and human milk is for human children. Sidelying position is one of the most controversial position, especially in India. I don't think this is even a problem in other countries. So here, when we even talk about breastfeeding in sidelying position, either the family members and unfortunately some even care providers tell the mother not to do so until 1 year, 1.5 years, because they think that it can cause ear infection, or some believe that it causes aspiration. Some even believe that the mother will sleep and fall off on the baby's face and suffocate and kill the baby. So these are all the common reasons why people don't want the mother to do sidelying position. So the first thing we'll talk about ear infection. So ear infection can happen if the baby is taking milk via bottle in lying down position. So it can enter the milk can pool around inside the mouth, can even enter the middle ear and cause infection. But that is not the case when it comes to breastfeeding. Breast and bottles are completely different. The mechanics are completely different. And in fact, breast milk prevents ear infection in children. And there is no possibility that the baby will get ear infection because of the breastfeeding position. Because if we just logically think about it, in every single position, the baby is lying down only. In cradle, or even in cradle position, you are holding the baby in a certain position where the head is a little bit inclined. But in cross cradle, in football, the baby is actually lying down. But when the mother lies down, there is a problem for people. Maybe I think because they don't want the mother to get any sort of comfort and they want her to keep suffering. That is the reason why they keep insisting her to sit and feed the child. So there is no possibility for ear infection when it comes to breastfeeding because the mechanics are completely different, as well as breast milk even prevents. So if you want my own case as an example, I couldn't do sidelying for some reasons, because again, she had latching issues. She wouldn't even latch properly while sitting. I couldn't try sidelying position until she was 3.5. There's been days where I decided that let me somehow try and complete 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, and I'll completely stop breastfeeding, because getting up and sitting and setting up the pillow and feeding the child was such a huge task. And I think fortunately by 4.5 or 5 months this girl started latching perfectly, and she used to do the latch perfectly well in sidelying position also. And I can swear that is the only reason for me to continue breastfeeding this long. She's almost 3 years now. Never in my dream I thought that I'll continue breastfeeding for such a long period. And I would definitely vouch for sidelying position. You will never feel any kind of discomfort. You can just feed the baby and get rest for yourself. The second thing is about aspiration. So again, people say that it can cause aspiration. And some even go to another level and say that your oxytocin peaks when you lie down. And it'll end up spraying the milk on the baby's mouth, and it can leak via nose, and it can aspirate the baby, and the baby gets killed. So again, there is no evidence for the same. So see, you be in any position, the baby is in the same position only. Even in sitting position, the baby is doing the same side lying, and the baby is taking the breast from a similar position. Again in sidelying, the baby also lies down onto the side and the baby is taking the breast just like how the baby is taking in sitting position. Like, how on earth will this cause aspiration? There is no possibilities for that. And the third one is smothering. So how can a mother even smother and suffocate the child and kill the child? I don't even get the logic of it. But anyways, I have a question and a suggestion for these people who say all these things. So one is, a postpartum mother doesn't have to lie down to sleep. She can even sleep while standing, because I've done that. I was taking bath when I was just 45 days or 50 days postpartum. I was so tired that even, I was sleeping when I was taking bath. Like, I realized only when I was about to fall down. So you can sleep in any position being a postpartum mother. Imagine having a baby, you're sitting in a cradle position, you're feeding the baby. Is there no chance for you to fall down on the baby's face and suffocate the baby in that position? There has been also a case, I think in UK somewhere, there was this mother who was traveling in the airplane. I don't know if she's a mother or a caregiver. She was just holding the baby, she was not even feeding, she was just holding the baby. She fell down on the baby's face and the baby passed away, and because it was because of smothering. So do you think breastfeeding in sidelying position is going to be the reason behind smothering? And now comes my suggestion. So if people are so concerned that you might fall on the baby's face and kill the baby, why don't they try to understand that you need some rest? And can't they come and tell you, like, you continue to do sidelying, let me take care of the feeding session, let me watch it for you. And once the feeding session is done, or once you're about to fall on the baby's face, let me wake you up. That they can do, right? Instead of asking her to sit and feed all the time and have a lot of discomfort, let her get some rest. Either the partner or some family member can take care of the baby. So this is it about sidelying. There is no single evidence that says breastfeeding in sidelying position is the reason behind so many troubles for children. So it's very important to realize it. And even for C-section mothers, for mothers who are having the episiotomy pain or any other discomforts while sitting and feeding, this can be such a savior for them. So if there is somebody who has concern, they can reach out to Dr. Jack Newman, who is the breastfeeding supporter, a pediatrician and author from Canada, who is doing an amazing job, and I think he will not give you the wrong information. So if there is anybody who is having issues, they can reach out to him. So when it comes to breastfeeding, a lot of people have this opinion that children need to be weaned off by either 6 months, because people think that it becomes water, becomes less in nutrition, it will make the baby behave in a certain way that is not appropriate for the society, and they'll not forget it forever, they'll keep drinking it, and they will not eat because they are breastfeeding. They will not go to school because they are breastfeeding, and there are so many stuffs like that. But all these are not true. So there is this weaning period for each and every mammal, and for human beings it's anywhere between 3.5 to even 7 years. So there will be a time where this child will definitely start weaning off by themselves, and that's called a self-weaning. So it can be either self-weaning, or even if the mother really feels that she would like to stop, then that also needs to be supported at any point of time. But following these methods that literally cold turkeyly make the baby stop breastfeeding can be harmful for the mother's mental health as well as the child's mental health. So breastfeeding has amazing benefits for both the mother and the baby if it is done on a prolonged basis. As per the WHO, it is recommended to breastfeed for at least 2 years and to continue as long as the mother and the child wants. I repeat, mother and the child wants. It's not about anybody else's opinion. So babies are again not going to cling on forever. Like, even if they're going to cling on to you and want to stay with you, that is not going to happen even when they become teenagers. So they are going to get away from you for a very longer time, and that's going to happen anyways. And this is not the stage to separate the mother and the baby by talking about things that are not even going to happen. So they're not going to cling on to you forever. So even my daughter is being breastfed at 3 years of age. She eats well, she is very comfortable when I'm not even there. So she's been away from me, but still she continues to feed. And also there is this myth that if you don't stop feeding them at a certain age, they are not going to sleep through the night. They will keep waking up and stuff like that. So again, as I told you, my daughter who is 3 years old is breastfed, and she sleeps through the night and she wakes up for a couple of times, but when I pat her, she goes to sleep again. So it is not going to be a situation where you're going to feed the baby just like how you were feeding them when they were newborn or when they were 6 or 7 months old forever. It is going to be completely different when you're going to breastfeed them as toddlers. So they just need you, they just need breastfeeding for the purpose of comfort, to feel safe, to feel secured while they miss you or while they want to connect back to you, and that's it. It's not going to be beyond that. They will also eat well provided the right environment is provided they are having a good positive association with food. It is going to happen on its own. That's a separate journey that has nothing to do with how much you breastfeed the child. So as I was talking about benefits, it's not just for the baby, it's also for the mother. So she's at a very low risk for getting ovarian cancer, breast cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, and it helps in burning calories, added advantage. And apart from that, the baby is also at a very low risk of respiratory infections, and even it prevents cancer in children if done on a prolonged basis. And apart from that, it also prevents UTIs, and it prevents obesity, diabetes for children as well. So there is amazing health benefits for both the mother and the children, and they can continue as long as they want. There is no need to stop at any point of time just because the society is asking you to do. So it is completely your decision. It is quite often believed that babies are supposed to start with cow's milk intake right from a very young stage, and people don't realize how harmful it can be. So the first thing that we can talk about is a very simple example. Now, I keep asking this to my session participants to make them understand in a very simple manner. So imagine there is a street next to you where there is a cow which has given birth to a calf, and unfortunately the cow died. And since you're breastfeeding, if that person from the house is coming to you and asking you for the milk, will you not laugh at them? This is because we very clearly know that the milk that we produce is definitely insufficient for the calf, because we can very well analyze the fact that the weight of the cow is very much, weight of the calf is very much different from the weight of a newborn. The way they behave, the characteristics that they have, everything decides the composition of the milk that the mammal is going to produce. So the milk of different mammals are of different compositions, and the composition that cow's milk has is just for the sake of calf to thrive and get the right nutrients, and not for human children. So cow's milk for cow's babies and human milk for human children. Very simple, right? And when we start giving that, what happens? Like, a lot of people think that I was given cow's milk, I give you cow's milk, you turned out fine, I turned out fine, why not do this for the child? And this is not something that a lot of people are realizing, but we are all not doing fine, to be very honest. There is a lot of health complications, and we are conditioned to believe that we are doing fine, we are doing healthy. Staying alive is different from being healthy, right? And there is also research that says that less than 20% of Indian adults are able to tolerate cow's milk, which means even Indian adults are not able to tolerate. Like, a lot of Indian adults are having difficulties in tolerating cow's milk, leave alone children. So now what happened was, I had a mother who visited me for a lactation consultation, and she had come with me with an abscess, breast abscess. That is, that there was a pus that got found out of the breasts, outside her breasts, and she had come to me to deal with her oversupply. So the interesting fact was, she didn't come with her child, she came alone. So her face was swollen, and I clearly knew that she was going through a lot. When she started explaining what happened to her, it was so heartbreaking, So she had oversupply right from the beginning, and that was again because of the food and the galactagogues and the prescribed medications that was forcefully given to her by saying that you have to take all these things, only then you will start producing milk. So she started taking so much of it and ended up having oversupply within a week's time of birth. And the oversupply was also coming in combination with overactive letdown. So the milk was spraying on the baby's face every time the baby came to the mother. So the baby felt unpleasant and started crying. You know what people labeled her? They said that you don't have sufficient milk. So that is why the baby is crying. So baby is not comfortable with the breast. So you are not supposed to breastfeed the child. Your milk is not nutritious for the child. So let us start giving cow's milk. And this mother, who was finding it very hard to deal with her oversupply because she had multiple episodes of engorgement, mastitis, fever, chills, and there was so much that she was going through where she couldn't stand up for her own child. And these people started giving cow's milk every single time this child was crying. And it ended up in a situation where this 45 days old child was having beyond 650-700 ml of cow's milk per day. And this child was suffering from constipation, and constipation led to rectum prolapse eventually. Okay, and this child was admitted in the hospital to treat rectum prolapse. This mother had abscess, she had to undergo surgery, and it was one of the most difficult cases I've ever dealt with. And the trauma, the difficulties that she was going through, and the recovery period of both of them, and for them to even start back breastfeeding again, because she was very much interested to do that. I wouldn't say that she has completely, she has completely stopped everything and she is completely into breastfeeding. She's still formula feeding. She is also breastfeeding, and she's happy about it. But why I am stressing this here is because cow's milk below 1 year can be very horrible on children. Their intestines are not designed in such a way to tolerate cow's milk. It can even lead to intestinal bleeding, and issues like constipation can get triggered, and it can worsen constipation if it is already existing, which can even lead to rectum prolapse, just like how I explained about the case right now. So it's very important to not offer cow's milk until 1 year, and even after 1 year, please ensure that you don't cross the limits. So maximum not more than 270 or max 300 ml per day. That is the max that they can tolerate, not beyond that. And cow's milk is also not mandatory after 1 year. So it is just the choice of the parent, and if the child is still not liking it, it's completely fine, because people always talk about calcium and not about any other nutrients, as if we are all very much into balanced nutrition. We always talk about calcium. We get calcium only from cow's milk is what people believe, but that's not the case. Even a spoon of sesame seeds is an amazing source of calcium. So you can go for different sources if the child is not comfortable with one particular food variety. So give them some time. If they're not ready to accept, just let them be. And if you don't want to give, again, that's completely fine. This is not a mandatory food for children to thrive. So as I already mentioned, cow's milk is for cow's children and human milk is for human children. And to be even more precise, Indians also never consumed cow's milk like how we are consuming today. So it was more of buttermilk, curd, milk sweets, and ghee, butter and all that. It was more of milk products than milk those days. I'm talking about centuries back, not a couple of generations back. And it all changed, and now we have come to a situation where we can't even move without having a cup of coffee or a tea with milk.